Let's check to see if that's working. It's working. Glory be. Okay, and let me get the guitar and we're ready to go. Okay, tonight we're going to chant O Hey Vaishnava Thakur. O Hey Vaishnava Thakur, Dayara Sadare, Dase Karuna Kuri, Diyapada Jaya, Shodaya Maya, Tomara Charana Jaya Begatami, Jaya Dosha Chori, Jaya Guna Deodase, Jaya Satsanga, Deoe Amare, Oshachi Sangira. Ekake Amara Naipai Guru Harinama Sankirtane Tumi Kripa Kori Shraddha Vinnudiya Deha Krishna Nama Krishna say Tomara, Krishna Kite Paro, Tomara Kate Ajay. Amito Kankala, Krishna Krishna Boli, Dai Prabha Ajay. O Hey Vaishnava Thakur, Dayara Sadar, Edase Karuna Kuri, Diyapada Jaya, Shodage Maya, Tomara Charana. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ati Hare Hare Rama, Ati Rama 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 Hare, Ati Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Ati Hare Hare Rama. Ati Rama 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 Hare, Ati Hare Ati Rama 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 Ore Ate Ore Krishna Ati Krishna 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 Ati Hare Hare Rama Ate Rama 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 Ore Ate Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Haribo, 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 Nichako, Haribo, 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 Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Maturam Ki Jai Jagadha Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Galasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bo. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vristaya Putale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gaurvani Pacharni Nivashesha, Shunyavadi, Paschatya Dejatarni. So, let me read the translation of this Vaishnava poem written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. O Venerable Vaishnava, O Ocean of Mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold on to your lotus feet. Teach me to control my 6 passions, rectify my 6 faults, bestow upon me the 6 qualities, and offer unto me the 6 kinds of holy association. I do not find the strength to carry on alone the Sankirtan of the holy name of Hari. Please bless me by giving me just 1 drop of faith with which to obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. I am simply running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ki Jai. Just this. Okay. So, today we're going to continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And, actually, I should mention, today is the disappearance day of Mukunda Dutt and also Kolavechra Sridhar, 2 great personalities whom we spoke about in class this morning. And also it is the celebration of the Snati Yatra of Lord Jagannath. Snati Yatra means the bathing ceremony of Lord Jagannath, after which Lord Jagannath appears to get sick. He's not actually sick, but he wants to be alone with the goddess of fortune. And after that, He remembers the gopis, and he goes to Vrindavan, which is represented by the Gundicha temple. Anyway, so that's what happened today. The Snani Yatra of Lord Jagannath, the disappearance day of Mukunda Datta and Kolavetra Shadar. So we spoke about all those things this morning. And if you're interested, you can look at the video that is on YouTube and also on Facebook from this morning's class. Thank you. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yeda Tazmai Shigirave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my divine spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're going to continue with the study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. We're in the 7th chapter of the Antya Lila of the Caitanya Caritamrta, and I believe we are on text 30. We're starting on with text 30. Yesterday we did the first 29 texts, and this particular chapter deals with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interactions with Vallabha Bhatta, who is the head of the Sampradaya known as the Pushti Marg or Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, which is very much prominent in Gujarat right now. Pushti Marg, and also in Vrindavan, there's many devotees of the Pushti Marg. And so we're going to hear how Vallabha Bhatta got corrected by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how he took shelter of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So let's go on to the Caitanya Caritamrta. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay. So here, Lord Chaitanya previously has been describing to Vallabha Bhatta about all the wonderful devotees that surround him, because Vallabha Bhatta approached him and was glorifying him, but then Lord Chaitanya started to glorify the devotees. And he did this with the intention of cutting down the false pride of Vallabha Bhatta. Okay, we'll hear about this. Shuddhabhave sakakare skande arohana Shuddhabhave vrajeshwari karena bandhana. In pure Krishna consciousness, the friend mounts the shoulder of Krishna, and Mother Yashoda binds the Lord. Prabhupada explains that Shuddha Bhava, or pure Krishna consciousness, is not dependent on the understanding of the Lord's opulences. Without such knowledge, the devotee in Shuddha Bhava is inclined to love Krishna as a friend or son. In other words, if you're remembering that Krishna is God, He's in control of everything, and as the Bhagavad Gita says, Aham sarvasya prabhu matak sarvam pravartate iti matvam vajantivam buddha bhava svampata. If you remember that verse, of course you probably should remember it if you're going to preach. But if you remember that verse, you're not going to really be able to interact with Krishna intimately. So what do you do if you're a preacher, but you also want to have an intimate relationship with Krishna simultaneously? Well, you have to shift gears. Just like in a car, or an old car, where they had the gear shift. They had first, second, third, fourth, and sometimes fifth. And at different times, you would employ a different gear. Like when you're going real slow, first gear. A little faster, second gear. A little faster, third gear. You know, you get it. So, take this off. So anyway, the same way, a devotee has to shift gears and put himself in different frames of mind according to what's required for his service to Krishna. If you're preaching Krishna consciousness, of course you're going to remember Aham sarvasya prabhu matak sarvam pravartate, or things like Aham bija pradapita. Other verses, practically. You remember the whole Bhagavad Gita. But when you're immersed in loving exchange with Krishna, let's say you're chasing Krishna, you're his friend, or you're acting like his mother, and you're angry with Krishna, then you forget Bhagavad Gita, because if you remembered Bhagavad Gita, you couldn't be angry with Krishna, you'd be scared to death. Okay. Morasaka Moraputra Eshuda Mana Ataiva Shuka Vyasakare Pashamsana. In pure Krishna consciousness, without knowledge of the Lord's opulences, a devotee considers Krishna his friend or son. Therefore, this devotional attitude is praised even by Shukadeva Goswami and Vyasadeva, the supreme authority. Itam sitam rama sukhanamudya dasyam gatanam padadaivatina maya shutanam nadadarakena sakam vijaru krita punya punja. Neither those who are engaged in self-realization, appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, nor those engaged in devotional service while accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, nor those who are under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord is an ordinary person, can understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as coward boys. And of course, that's from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 12th chapter, text 11, a famous verse. And of course, the pious activities that are being referred to here, Krita means the activities, Krita Punya, Punja, the most pious activities, or heaps of volumes of pious activities. Those pious activities being referred to are activities in devotional service, not mundane piety. Like you can't play with Krishna after opening up a whole bunch of hospitals. Traya Jopani Shabishja Sankhya Yogasya Satvatahai Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam. When Mother Yashoda saw all the universes within Krishna's mouth, she was astonished for the time being. The Lord is worshipped like Indra and other demigods. The Lord is worshipped like Indra and other demigods by the followers of the three Vedas who offer him sacrifices. He is worshipped as a personal Brahman by saintly persons who understand his greatness through study in the Upanishads, as the Purusha by great philosophers who analytically study the universe, as the all-pervading Supersoul by great yogis, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees. Nevertheless, Mother Yashoda considered the Lord her own son. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto again, 8th chapter, text 45. In other words, Yayata mam pajante tam stathaiva vaishamyaham mama vartmanuvarsante manushapartha sarvasha. Everyone is reciprocating with Krishna. I mean, some people see Krishna as Mityu Sarvaharashchaham, all-devouring death. And other people see Krishna as the most beloved personality, depending on your relationship. Krishna is like the Vaidurya stone. That's the example that Prabhupada gives. Vaidurya stone means you can look at it from different angles and it reflects different colors. It's something like one of those crystals. I don't know if you've ever heard of an Austrian crystal. When I was young, I lived in a house and we had chandeliers that were made from Austrian crystals. So one of my favorite activities in those days was to take the crystals down from the chandelier, much to the chagrin of my mother, who was really upset because they were very expensive chandeliers. And I would look through the world in different ways at different angles and look at the crystal from the chandelier, and I'd see different things at different times because of the refraction of light. Anyway, that's a mundane example. But in any case, Krishna seen through different eyes or appreciated by different persons according to their realization is seen differently. Nanda kim akarod brahman shreyavam mahodayam yashodava mahabhaga Papo yasyastanam harihi. O Brahmana, what pious activities did Nanda Maharaj perform to receive the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as a son? And what pious activities did Mother Yashoda perform that made the absolute Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna call her mother and suck her breasts? This also from Bhagavatam 10.8.46. Aishvarya dekileha Shudera nahi aishvarya jnana Ataiva aishvarya haite kevaila Baba pradana. Even if a pure devotee sees the opulence of Krishna, he does not accept it. Therefore, pure consciousness is more exalted than consciousness of the Lord's opulences. So, just like when the gopis were looking for Krishna in Vrindavan, and Krishna manifested himself in the opulent Narayan form, Chaturbhuj, that means 4 arms. The gopis offered obeisances, obviously, but, they weren't interested. They just said to Narayan, who they thought was Narayan, and actually Krishna is Narayan, they said to him, please tell us where Krishna is. They weren't interested in Narayan per se. Esava Sakaila More Raya Ramananda Anargala Rasaveta Prema Sukhananda. Ramananda Roy is extremely aware of transcendental mellows. He is incessantly absorbed in the happiness of ecstatic love of Krishna. It is he who has taught me all this. So, trying to understand why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing this, because Vallabhata has come to him and offered him prayers, and the prayers were very correct. There was nothing wrong with the prayers. He was understanding the Yuga Dharma. He was understanding Lord Chaitanya's ontological position. But the prayers were done in the mood of establishing himself as the knower of Lord Chaitanya. In other words, there was a tinge of pride there. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was trying to knock down his pride by glorifying all these other devotees, and Vallabha was thinking, I'm the best devotee, I know your mission, I know you, And Lord Chaitanya, instead of saying, thank you for your praise. What is that? Anyway. Hold on a second, that's pretty crazy, someone calling in the middle of class. Okay, so let me just disconnect that. Okay, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is praising all the other devotees and saying, these are all great devotees, and then Ballabhabhata appears to be like a little glowworm in a comparison to all these suns. So this is what Lord Chaitanya is doing. He's putting Ballabhabhata in his place. Kahana Nayaya Ramanandera Prabhava Raya Prasade Janilun Vajera Shuddhabhava. It is impossible to describe the influence and knowledge of Ramananda Roy, for only by his mercy have I understood the unalloyed love for the residents of Vrindavan. Damadara Swarupa Prema Rasa Murti Man Yanra Sange Haila Braja Madhura Rasa Jnana. The transcendental mellows of ecstatic love are personified by Swarup Damodar. By his association, I have understood Vrindavan's transcendental mellow of conjugal love. Shuddha Prema Braja Devira Kamaganda Hina Krishna Sukha Tatparya Etara China. The unalloyed love of the gopis and Srimati Radharani is without any trace of material lust. The criterion of such transcendental love is that its only purpose is to satisfy Krishna. Wow. Yate sujata charanam buruham saneshu vita shanai priyadadi maki karkasheshu tenatavim atasi tad yattatena kim svet kurupadi bir brahmati dir bhavadayusham naha. O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our lives rest only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. This verse is spoken, of course, by the gopis in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-19. Gopi Ganera Shuddhapanema Ishvarya Jnana Hina Premete Bhartsana Kare Etara China. Obsessed with pure love without knowledge of opulences, the gopis sometimes chastise Krishna. That is a symptom of pure ecstatic love. Obviously, if you didn't have pure ecstatic love, if you understood Krishna's opulences, you wouldn't be chastising him. You'd be scared. Krishna, oh God, please give me something. Anyway. Pati sutanvaya bharat trir bandhavan ati vilangya te ten yachuta gata gati vedas tavo gita mohita kitavha yoshita kas jajanishi. O dear Krishna, we gopis have neglected the order of our husbands, sons, families, brothers, and friends, and have left their company to come to you. You know everything about our desires. We have come only because we are attracted by the supreme music of your flute. But you are a great cheater, for who else would give up the company of young girls like us in the dead of night? And this verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-16. So much nectar. Sarvotamam bhajanai sarvabhakti jini ataiva krishna kai amitamara rini. The conjugal love of the gopis is the most exalted devotional service, surpassing all the other methods of bhakti. Therefore, Lord Krishna is obliged to say, my dear gopis, I cannot repay you. Indeed, I am always indebted to you. Another famous verse from the Bhagavatam coming up. In other words, he can't repay you verse. Napadayaham niravajya sangyujam swasadu krityam vibudayushapiva yam abhajandurjayageha shrinkala samvrishchatadva patiyatu sadhuna. O gopis, I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. It's a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-22. In other words, Krishna says, I can't repay you, whatever I have. I mean, of course, they own Krishna. For most of us, I belong to Krishna. But for the gopis, Krishna belongs to them. So I can't repay you. What can I give you? You'll just have to be satisfied with your own love. Aishvarya jnana haite kevala bhava pradana prativite vaktanai udava samana. Completely distinct from love of Krishna and opulence, pure love of Krishna is on the highest level. On the surface of the world, there's no devotee greater than Uddhava. Tena yandrapada dhule karena partana srupera sange pailun esaba sikshana. Uddhava desires to take on his head the dust of these gopis' lotus feet. I have learned about all these transcendental loving affairs of Lord Krishna from Sarup Damodar. Asamaho chalana renu jusham maham sham Vrindavane kimapi gulma lotashadinam yadushjajam swajanamarya patam chahitva Bejur mukunda patavim shutibir rimrijyam. The gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, sons, and other family members who are very difficult to give up, and they have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Oh, let me be fortunate enough to become one of the bushes, creepers, or herbs in Vrindavan. for the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. And of course, that's Uddhava. This verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-61 was spoken by Uddhava. When Uddhava was sent by Krishna to see the condition of the gopis in Vrindavan, he stayed there for a few months in their association and always talked with them about Krishna. Although this greatly pleased the gopis and other residents of Brajabhumi, Vrindavan, Uddhava saw that the gopis were severely afflicted by their separation from Krishna. Their hearts were so disturbed that their minds were sometimes deranged. Observing the unalloyed devotion and love of the gopis for Krishna, Uddhava desired to become a creeper, a blade of grass, or a herb in Vrindavan, so that sometimes the gopis would trample him and he would receive the dust of their lotus feet on his head. One of the things that Uddhava observed was what's called in the Bhagavatam, the song of the bumblebee. When Uddhava was there, Radharani Srimati Radharani took a bumblebee to be a messenger from Krishna, and she was just chastising the bumblebee. The bumblebee went away. I mean, there's a lot of nectar in this particular section of the Bhagavatam, and the bumblebee comes back and this exchanges with the bumblebee. Unreliable servant of an unreliable master. She's chastising the bumblebee. And because Uddhava observed this, he could see Divyan Nada, transcendental madness, transcendental ecstasy. And he decided to reside eternally in Vrindavan. In fact, there's a particular location right next to Govardhan Hill, which is the Uddhava Kund area, where there's the deity of Radha, Uddhava Bihari. And last time I went, it was 3 years ago because of COVID. It was being taken care of, the temple was being taken care of this old sage named Giriraj, whose father had done something like 1,000 parikramas of Govardhan to get him as a son. This great, great devotee stays there every day, reading the Bhagavatam, taking care of the deities. I mean, these are great, great personalities. Everybody born in Vrindavan and serving the deities like that. Harirasta Kora Maha Bhagavata Pradana Pratidina Laya Tena Tina Laksha Nama. Haridas Thakur, the teacher of the holy name, is the most exalted of all pure devotees. Every day he chants 300,000 holy names of the Lord. Now, another reason why Lord Chaitanya is talking about Haridas Thakur is Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family, and therefore, according to the culture at that particular time, he was considered an outcast, someone not capable of taking up the Vedic culture or Vaishnavism. And at the same time, you have Balabhabata, who was actually from a very exalted, that is, family of Brahmins, and he's proud of his Brahminical status. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sort of like giving him a punch to the solar plexus by this particular statement. So just trying to understand the psychology of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he's talking about Bhagavata in this particular way. It's not that he's just glorifying the devotees. Of course, he is glorifying the devotees, but he has a particular motivation in his glorification of the devotees. Namera Mahima Hami Tanra Tani Shikilun Tanra Prasade Namera Mahima Jani Lun. I have learned about the glories of the Lord's holy name from Haridas Thakur, and by his mercy I've understood these glories. And now he mentions a whole bunch of more devotees. Acharya Ratna, Acharya Nidhi Pandita, Gadadhar, Jagadananda, Damadara, Shankara, Vargeshwara, Kashishvara, Mukunda, Vasudeva, Murari, Ariyata, Bhaktagana, Gaude Avatari, Krishna Nama Prema, Kaila Jagate, Prachara, Inha Savara Sange, Krishna Bhakti Ye, Amara. He's basically saying all these devotees are better than you. And you should take association from them and be humble, my dear Balabhabata. Acharya Ratna, Acharya Nidhi Gadadhar, Panda Jagadananda, Damodara, Shankara, Prakeshwara, Kashishvara, Mukunda, Vasudeva, Murari, and many other devotees have descended in Bengal. to preach to everyone the glories of the holy name of Krishna and the value of love for him. I have learned from them the meaning of devotional service to Krishna. Bhatera hridaye drida abhimana jane Vangi kare Mahaprabhu kaye etavane. Knowing that Balabhabhata's heart was full of pride, in other words, pride in his learning, pride in his thinking he's a great devotee, pride in thinking that he's a Brahmin, a high-class Brahmin, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu spoke these words hinting at how one can learn about devotional service. And Prabhupada explains that Balabhabhata was greatly proud of his knowledge in devotional service, and therefore he wanted to speak about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without understanding the Lord's position. The Lord therefore hinted in many ways that if Balabhabhata wanted to know what devotional service actually is, he would have to learn from all the devotees he mentioned, beginning with Advaitacharya, Lord Nityananda, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Ramananda Roy. As Swarup Damodar has said, if one wants to learn the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, one must take lessons from a realized soul. One should not proudly think that one can understand the transcendental loving service of the Lord simply by reading books. One must be a servant, or become a servant of a Vaishnava. As Narottam Das Thakur has confirmed, Charya Vaishnava Seva, Nishtara Peyeche Keva. One cannot be in a transcendental position unless one very faithfully serves a pure Vaishnava. One must accept a Vaishnava Guru, Adho Guru Ashrayam. That means in the beginning one must take shelter of the Guru. And then by questions and answers one should gradually learn what pure devotional service to Krishna is. That is called the Parampara system. So he's just like really letting Balabhabhata know, you got to follow the right process. Approach the devotees. Ami se Vaishnava Bhakti Siddhanta Sabha Jane Ami se Bhagavatartha Uttama Vakani. Balabhabhata was thinking, I am a great Vaishnava. Having learned all the conclusions of Vaishnava philosophy, I can understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam and explain it very well. So exactly what I was explaining before. I'm a great Vaishnava, a great scholar, Brahmin family, all these things. And Lord Chaitanya smashed him without yelling at him, without telling him, you're proud, Prabhu. But he told him that indirectly by glorifying the other Vaishnavas. Vatera manete e chila dirga garva prabhora vachana shuni se haila karva. Such pride had existed for a long time within the mind of Balabhabhata, but as he heard the preaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his pride was cut down, at least temporarily. Prabhura mukhe Vaishnavata Shunya Sabhara Bhatera Icha Hailatan Sabhare Deki Bara. When Balabhabhata heard from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the pure Vaishnavism of all these devotees, he immediately desired to see them. Matakai Esabha Vaishnava Rahe Konstane Kon Prakare Paimu Ihan Sabhara Darshane. Balabhabhata said, where do all these Vaishnavas live and how can I see them? Prabhu Kai Keha Gore Keha Deshantare Sava Hasiyache Rathayatra Deki Vare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, although some of them live in Bengal and some in other states, they've all come here to see the Rathayatra festival. Ihani Rahena Sabe Vasa Nanastane Ihani Paivadume Sabharadarshane. At present they are all living here. Their residents are in various quarters. Here you will get the audience of them all. Tabivatu kahe bahu vinaya vachana bahu dain yakari prabhure kaila nimantrana. Thereafter, with great submission and humility, Balabhabhata invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to dine at his home. Adadina Sabha Vaishnava Prabhu Stani Aila Savasane Mahaprabhu Bhate Milaila. The next day, when all the Vaishnavas came to the abode of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord introduced Balabhavata to them all. Vaishnavera teja deki patera chamatkara tansabara gevata kadyota akara. Here was the example that I gave a few minutes ago. He was surprised to see the brilliance of their faces. Indeed, among them, Balabhavata seemed just like a glowworm. Tabe bata bahu mahaprasada anaila ganasaha mahaprabhure bhojana karaila. Then Balabhavata brought in a great quantity of Lord Jagannath's Mahaprasadam and sumptuously fed Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. Paramananda Puri Sange Sanyasira Gana Ekadike Vaisasava Karite Vojana. All the sannyasi associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, headed by Paramananda Puri, sat on one side and thus partook of the prasadam. Advaita Nityananda Parshve Dvijana Majje Mahaprabhu Vasila Agibhache Vaktagana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat in the midst of the devotees. Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda each sat on one side of the Lord. The other devotees sat in front of the Lord and behind him. Godera Bhakta Yata Kahitena Pari Angane Vasila Saba Hanasari Sari. The devotees from Bengal, who are unable to count, all sat down in lines in the courtyard. Prabhura Bhakta Gana Deki Vatera Chamatkara Pratyeke Sabara Pade Kaila Namaskara. When Balabhavata saw all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was greatly surprised, and in devotion he offered his obeisances at the lotus feet of each and every one of them. But still he got puffed up after that. Surupa Jagadananda Kachishvara Shankara Pariveshana Karayara Raghava Damadara. Surup Damodar, Jagadananda, Kashishvara, and Shankara, along with Raghava and Damodar Pandit, took charge of distributing the prasadam. Mahaprasada Balabhavata Bahu Enaila Prabhu Saha Sanyasi Gana Bhojane Vasila. Balabhavata had brought a large quantity of Mahaprasadam offered to Lord Jagannath. Thus all the sannyasis sat down to eat with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prasada Paya Vaishnavagana Bali Huri 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 Dwani Ute Sava Brahmananda Bhari. Accepting the prasadam, all the Vaishnavas chanted the holy names. Hari Hari! The rising vibration of the holy name of Hari filled the entire universe. Wow. Mala Chandana Gupaka Pananeka Nila Sava Puja Karivata Anandita Khaila. When all the Vaishnavas had finished eating, Balabhavata brought a large quantity of garlands, sandalwood pulp, spices, and betel. He worshipped the devotees very respectfully and became extremely happy. Rathayatra Dine Prabhu Kirtanaram Vila Purvavatsata Sampradaya Pataktarila. On the day of the car festival, that's Rathayatra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began the congregational chanting as he had done previously. He divided all the devotees into 7 groups. Dvaita Nityananda Haridasa Varkeshwara Srivasa Raghava Pandit Gadadhara Satajana Satatani Karena Nartana Hari Bhola Bali Prabhu Karena Paramata. 7 devotees, Advaita Nityananda Haridas Thakur, Varkeshwara Srivas Thakur, Raghava Pandit, and Gadadhar Pandit, formed 7 groups and began dancing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chanting Hari Bol, wandered from one group to another. Chodama Dalabhaje Uta Sankirtana Eka Eka Narata Kera Preme Vasila Bhuvana. 14 mridangas resounded with the loud congregational chanting, and in each group was a dancer whose dance of ecstatic love inundated the entire world. Deki Balabhavatera Haila Chamatkara Nande Vivola Nagi Apana Sambhala. Seeing all this, Balabhavata was completely astonished. He was overwhelmed by transcendental bliss and lost himself. Kabe Mahaprabhu Sabaran Richa Rakila Purvavadapane Nritya Karitela Gila. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped the dancing of the others, and as he had done previously, he personally began to dance. Prabhura Saundarya Deki Hara Premodaya Eta Sakshat Krishna Bhatera Haila Nishaya. Seeing the beauty of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the awakening of his ecstatic love, Balabhabhata concluded, here is Lord Krishna without a doubt. E Maturata Yatra Sakale Tekila Prabhura Charitre Bhatera Chamatkara Haila. Thus Balabhabhata witnessed the car festival. He was simply astonished by the characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yantrantare Vatayai Mahaprabhu Stane Prabhu Charane Kichu Kaila Nivedane. One day, after the festival was over, Balabhabhata went to the abode of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submitted a request at the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, here we're going to end up with a little bit of conflicts with Lord Chaitanya. Bhagavatera Tika Kichu Kariyachi Likana Apane Mahaprabhu Yade Karena Shravana. I've written some commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, he said. Would your lordship kindly hear it? Prabhu Kahe Bhagavatartha Bhujite Napari Bhagavatartha Shunite Ami Nahi Adhikari. The Lord replied, I do not understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Indeed, I am not a suitable person to hear its meaning. Basi Krishna Nama Matra Kriye Grahane Sankhya Nama Purna Mora Nahi Ratri Dine. I simply sit and try to chant the holy name of Krishna, and although I chant day and night, I nevertheless cannot complete the chanting my prescribed number of rounds. Patakahe Krishna Namera Artha Vyakane Vistara Kai Rachi Taha Karaha Shavane. Balabhabhata said, I have tried to describe elaborately the meaning of Krishna's holy name. Kindly hear the explanation. Prabhu Kahe Krishna. Lord Chaitanya keeps putting Balabhabhata down, not wanting to hear his explanations on the Bhagavatam or on the holy name. Very interesting how Lord Chaitanya is dealing with someone who is prideful. Prabhu Kahe Krishna Namera Bahuartha Namani Shama Sundara Yashoda Nandana Ematra Jani. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I do not accept many different meanings for the holy name of Krishna. I know only that Lord Krishna is Shama Sundara and Yashoda Nandana. That's all I know. Tamala Shamala Twishi Shri Yashoda Stanandaye Krishna Namno Rudiriti Sarvashastra Viniranayaha. The only purport of the holy name of Krishna is that he is dark blue like a tamal tree and is the son of Mother Yashoda. This is the conclusion of all the revealed scriptures. This is a verse from the Nama Kaumudi. E artami matra janiye nirdhara arasararte mora nahi adhikara. I conclusively know these two names, Shamasundara and Yashodanandana. I do not understand any other meanings, nor have I the capacity to understand them. Valgupraya Bhatera Namadi Sabha Vyakya Sarga Prabhu Jani Tare Kareno Peksha. Being omniscient, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand that Balabhabhata's explanation of Krishna's name and Srimad Bhagavatam were useless. Therefore, he did not care about them. Vimanahana Vata Gela Nijagara Prabhu Vishaya Bhakti Kichu Ahila Antara. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rigidly declined to hear his explanations, Balabhabhata went home feeling morose. His faith in the Lord and devotion to him changed. Ooh. So you see, his humility didn't last very long. Tabe Vata Gela Pandita Goshanira Tani Nanamate Pritikare Kari Asai. Thereafter, Balabhabhata went to the home of Gadadhar Pandit. He kept coming and going, showing affection in various ways, and thus maintained a relationship with him. Prabhuru Pekshaya Saba Ilachera Jana Vatera Vyakyana Kichuna Kare Shavana. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not take Balabhabhata very seriously, none of the people in Jagannath Puri would hear any of his explanations. So today we did verse 30 to 91. So we went quite a few. First went through quite a few verses. Okay, so we will stop sharing and unmute you all. And we will see if anyone has any questions. So, or you can type in your text window, raise your hand, or unmute yourself if you like. Who has a question? This is your opportunity. Going once. No one has a question. I am disappointed. No one can ask a question about this ecstatic portion of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. Nobody wants to. Oh, go, Paul. Yeah.
So, hearing about Vallabhabhata, who, just upon hearing about the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, wanted to meet them. And then as soon as he met them, it's stated here that he offered them humble obeisances. And then he had firm faith in Lord Chaitanya. Hearing that he still succumbed to pride is very frightening for the rest of us who succumb to pride so easily about nothing. He actually had some reason to be proud and gave it up very easily anyway. And yet later on, it came back again. So how's the rest of us, well, myself at least, I can't speak for anyone but me, how can I avoid falling in such a pit of vipers of pride, the way that Vallabhabhata did?
Yes. One has to be very careful. Like Vallabhabhata's problem was, his pride was that he was ready to criticize Vaishnavas. It was actually connected with Vaishnava Aparada. As we'll hear later on, he criticized Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Lord Chaitanya gives us the prescription. We have to always keep in the forefront this verse from the Shikshashtika. Chunadapi Sunichena Thorori Vasihishana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others, not thinking that we are better than anyone else. So Vallabhabhata's pridefulness was based upon his thinking that he was a better devotee, better Brahmin, better family, all these things more than anyone else. And that pride caused him to neglect his service attitude, especially towards the Acharya like Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we always maintain our attitude of being a servant of everyone, that's a fact. Even the guru, he serves the disciples by guiding them in Krishna consciousness. So there's a reciprocal mood of service. So one should never think, Ishwara humbuggy. I'm perfect, I'm powerful, or I'm intelligent, I know more than anyone else, I'm a better chanter than other people. We succumb to this quite often. And that's the danger with pride. So if you remember that you're a servant of a servant of a servant of the Lord, then you won't succumb to it. And Vallabhabhata did not remember that. He was thinking, I'm intelligent. I'm going to prove to Lord Chaitanya that I have given a very unique explanation on the holy names, and a very unique explanation that's better than the previous explanations on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Buddha.
Thank you. So, anybody else have a question before we end? People have been real quiet lately in the last few days as far as asking questions. All right. If no one has a question, okay, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, we'll see everybody tomorrow evening, same time, same station. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Whoops.